Well, today we are interviewing the great Bassmaster of Northern Michigan, the guy that all the smallmouth bass are afraid of, Patrick Leavy from Kid Leavy.
Here I am talking to Pat O'Keefe. How you doing, Pat? Good to see you.
Pat is the leading salesman in Michigan for residential properties and has his hands on the pulse of real estate sales in the marketplace. And so I thought today, as we explore the real estate industry, that we get some of his insights. So Pat, I'm going to start right out. I hope you're not fishing, but how is the Northern Michigan market?
Well, the Northern Michigan market has actually been awesome. Finding something to sell, that's a whole other story in itself. We've been seeing that most of the time, if a listing comes on the market and it's priced correctly, it's going to get into a bidding war, that's for sure. And I've not seen it that it hasn't been. There's been multiple offers coming in, and what they do sometimes is go final and best, and the next day, or sometimes they don't. But there's been a lot of multiple offer situations on most of the real estate in Northern Michigan, and it's also because inventory is at an all-time low, and demand to find something, either cottage or even in town Petoskey, for even the locals, or even in town Boyne City. It's been a list of people making moves to upgrade and get to Northern Michigan. So the market's been tremendous, and it's been that way, all across the country. Am I going to see a slowdown? I think we're still a little bit away in Northern Michigan, because even in 08 and 09 we had good years, and I think that up here we're not totally recession-proof, but we're a little more insulated on the aspect of the guys buying on these lakes up here, or these cottages, or even in Bay Harbor. It's an option in a secondary home. I mean, it's not how's the schools, it's not that type of questions. It's like, how long's the pool open, and how long's the clubs going to be open, and how long do they golf up here? So it's they're a little more insulated than, a standard market, as you would see, like, for an example, like in West Bloomfield, where the houses are, you're all about the same houses. They're going to be dipping, because in that subdivision there's 250 of them, and they're all going to be moving up and down on the same path. But in Northern Michigan, on these homes on the water, they're a little bit more resilient, because it's a global pull, from Texas, from Florida, California, all the way through the Midwest. And, they're coming up all over. Well, an in-state, downstate home, it's pulled by region and what's your job, not up here. It's more of a luxury item.
I'm with somebody today who's a future consumer of residential purchases, all the way from Spokane, Washington. Lois Fleming here has a question for Pat Leavy. Lois?
Pat, who's buying?
Yeah, the demographics of a lot of the buyers, I've found that, we're having a lot more really well-off 40-year-olds and even 30-year-olds than we've ever seen in the past, and which is great. We're even picking up some of the Bitcoin guys coming up buying places, and which I couldn't believe it. Some of these late 20 guys picking up some amazing homes. But we've had a really good rush of higher 30s, 40s, and 50s coming up, and it's what should happen. They're falling in right behind the seams of grandma and grandpa, mom and dads, and they move on, and then the next generation comes in, and so we'll get a good run of clients in their 30s and 40s, believe it or not, coming up looking for these homes, which is terrific.
What you said is interesting, but I'm wondering, what do you attribute this vibrancy in the market to?
Well, what I think the market, and the reason it's really just exploded, it's always been good, okay? But if you jump back to like 2000 when COVID came out, everybody thought at the time, at least I did, you got a house that's, $280,000, your mom lives in it, and she's 75, almost 80. Are you going to let, 12 couples come through and touch the doorknobs and maybe we didn't know how things were being spread. We have no idea. And so my thought was, no, why would you take that risk? But oh my gosh, we were wrong. What we didn't predict is interest rates were going to stay low. We didn't predict that it was going to be totally social accepted to shut your office down and completely work out of home and sit in your backyard and flip your laptop up and Zoom your whole office in. Totally acceptable today. And then we also didn't predict that the government was going to cut a lot of these companies and these, checks. So people were getting checks and staying home. And so to me, a lot of people never predicted any of that stuff. So once that COVID hit and it was acceptable to work anywhere in the country, people were getting out of these places that all the restaurants were shut down. And they were running to northern Michigan where all the restaurants were still kind of open, So they were going to escape. And if they felt like they had to be locked up in their house, they were going to say, no way, let me lock it up at a nice resort. And their friends would call and say, oh, what are you doing today? And oh, my wife's out on the paddleboard and I went for a bike ride. And they're like, where are you living? And you're like, oh, we moved to our cottage in northern Michigan. As fast as they said that, one of the two, the husband or wife, would go, why aren't we up there? Here they come, and then they started looking as well. So, I think that, we've got a solid market up here. And I don't think that, I think that we're going to stay that way for a while, even though, as long as this COVID thing is still floating out there and people are okay to work out of anywhere, they don't need to go in the office anymore, you're going to still see an explosion of still people coming up here.
Well, that's got great insight, but what would ever change this momentum? We've got all these sales out there now, and I'm wondering what slows it down.
I think that the only way we're going to see a real big change is if that stock market really tanks and we go through a really good recession. So let's talk about that. The stock market drops, today it actually went up a little bit, but if it stays 25%, what if it goes down 30, 40%? First thing that's going to go is going to be the secondary home. For an example, a family has one in an estate, and each one of the family members only uses it for a couple weeks a year. Somebody in the group's going to say, what are we holding this for 2 weeks a year? Dad bought it in 1974 for $300,000 and it's worth 3.5 today. What are we doing holding this thing? So you're going to get more homes coming for sale on the market. And for years, from 2000 to maybe 2016, we always had 14, 15 homes for sale. Like for an example, on Walloon and up in the Cliffs condos and Bay Harbor and stuff. There's always 12 for sale, 15, none anymore. And it's because we were in a time where you needed to sell in 7 and 8. So if we get back down and the market tanks down to 30, 40%, people are going to start moving those houses more because they need that cash in the bank. They feel more secure about that in your bank than the secondary home. They won't sell the primary home because that one is where the kids go to school. That's where Christmas, the memories were. They're not going to do that, but luxury items for sure will go.
And lastly, I think everybody who's either a buyer or a seller is going to want to know, how long do you think it's going to last?
I'll go back to 7 and 8. 7 was good. 8 tanked. 9 just slowly started creeping back up. 10, 11, 12, and it went right like this. So we rebound faster in northern Michigan than anywhere else because of it's a luxury item, and we will recover faster than others. That's for sure. And there'll be a lot more people trying to get to their places, as it starts creeping back up fast than you would if you were, like I said before, if you're in an area where you're in an area like a subdivision, there's 280 homes that are similar to yours, they're going to take their time because they compete with each other. They're all the same square footage about, they're all a little different colors and all the same schools. They'll creep back at a slower pace than we do in northern Michigan for sure. Pat, thanks for asking to talk to me, and I enjoy talking to you, and I will see you on the water. See you, buddy.